You manipulated Grandma Margaret for her money. My dad Michael snapped after I paid her bills, scrubbed her floors, and held her hand while they vanished for years. I said, "You left her to die. Now you'll watch her inheritance tear your life apart." That night, I sent the will to every relative, exposing every lie they built on her silence. After Grandma Margaret passed away, everything unraveled. Things weren't exactly smooth before, but we managed. My parents, my younger brother Ryan, and me, Ethan. We celebrated birthdays, shared holidays, went through ups and downs, but once she was gone, something inside Michael and Jessica snapped and they stopped pretending to be decent. She was the only one who truly saw me for who I was. After I graduated and moved out, Margaret was the one I stayed closest to. She called me weekly, mailed cards for no reason, sent small amounts of money when I was broke. She always said I reminded her of herself. Maybe that's why she left me what she did. She left me more than she gave Michael and Jessica. Not a fortune, but enough to matter. Enough to set them off. I didn't brag. I didn't fight. But I also didn't offer to give them a share. That's when everything changed. The calls stopped. The texts grew cold, then vanished completely. When I brought it up, Michael and Jessica accused me of twisting things, of taking advantage of their generosity. They said a lot of hurtful things I won't even repeat. I halfway expected that from Michael. He's always treated people like deals and numbers. But Jessica, she didn't even pause. She immediately took his side like it was second nature. Her final words before she cut contact were that I needed to seriously look at what kind of son I had become. Only Ryan didn't abandon me. He's 22, still stuck living at home in that frustrating in-between place where you want to grow up but can't afford to. He kept calling, messaging, even drove to visit me a couple of times. He never asked for anything, just wanted to talk, hang out, play games, chat about music. He never brought up the inheritance or the fight unless I did first. Months back, Ryan started suggesting that Michael and Jessica felt regret, that they missed having me around. I didn't believe him. I told him I was over it, and honestly, I mostly was, but then he started pushing harder. He claimed they were ready to apologize, that they realized they had gone too far. He said he was exhausted from being stuck in the middle, pretending our family was still whole. I took some time, thought about it more than I should have. Then last week, I figured maybe it was worth one more try. I told Ryan I'd pay for a meal, something decent. All of us on neutral ground, nothing over the top, just a peaceful place where we could talk like mature people. He was happy. Said he had spoken with them, told me they agreed, so I made the booking. It wasn't cheap, but if it meant a clean start, I figured it was worth it. I set the reservation under my name. 5 guests, 7 p.m., Saturday evening. Then I made the long drive, 5 hours back to their town. No big hopes, no dramatic expectations, just hoping they'd come and we could start again. I arrived early, gave my name to the hostess. She smiled, walked me to the table. I sat down, ordered a glass of water, and waited. 15 minutes passed, then 30. No sign of anyone. Ryan's phone was off. That was strange. He never turns it off. I started wondering if something had gone wrong. Then my phone vibrated. It was a message from Michael. "Did you really think we'd come? You are a total failure. I wish I never made you 27 years ago." All caps, no punctuation. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't feel sadness, just emptiness. Then out of nowhere, I started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was so childish, so ridiculous that I couldn't believe I had wasted all that time, effort, and money for this. I didn't drink all my water. I stood up and left and located a motel several streets away. I wasn't returning home. Not yet. I wasn't finished. I didn't head home. I wasn't even considering it. After all that went down inside the restaurant, I realized something inside me had broken, but not in a loud shouting on the sidewalk kind of way. It was quiet, steady, frozen. I stayed on the motel bed, looking upward at the ceiling most of the night. I didn't rest. I didn't eat. I only kept thinking about how carefully they had arranged it. How they completely knew what they were doing. Stealing Ryan's phone, that was on purpose. Waiting until the very last instant to leave, That was intentional, too. It wasn't some error. This was a calculated action. They thought I would just back away again like always, but this time they made it specific. They brought Ryan into it, and they made certain it caused pain. I turned on my computer at around 5 o'clock in the morning, my thoughts already spinning around, an idea that had lived quietly in the background of my brain for many years, something I never imagined I'd follow through on. Not because I was scared, but because I believed I was morally above it. But when a person is pushed far enough, they begin asking what being better ever really gave them. My dad Michael's bookkeeping company seems tiny from the front. Just a small shop with a worn-out sign on the edge of the garage and a web page that hadn't been touched since 2011. But what most people never realize is that he'd been earning serious income from it for years, and not always through legal channels. He used to brag about it back when I was little, mostly when he'd had one too many drinks or was feeling smug. He handled taxes for mostly cash-heavy places, beauty parlors, repair garages, a couple of shady landlords. Some of it followed rules, some of it absolutely didn't. There were duplicate ledgers, made-up expenses, imaginary family members, cash income never reported. He kept extra money from customers in exchange for managing the risk. He referred to it as smart work. Margaret was clueless. Jessica acted blind. I was the one who helped him recover files after a lightning surge years earlier. He assumed all his records were lost, but I figured out a method to bring most of it back and store it safely. I saved everything, old bills, tax paperwork, spreadsheets, client records, into a different hard drive. Back then, I thought I was simply being helpful. I never said I held a copy. But now, it felt like I'd been holding a weapon I hadn't realized I had. The device was still sitting inside my bag. I connected it, opened the folder slowly, and saw everything exactly as I left it. I looked over names, timelines, totals. There were some things I didn't completely follow, but more than enough that any investigator would notice, especially ones where earnings didn't match what was filed with the tax agent. I didn't hurry. I wanted accuracy. I stayed most of the afternoon in a coffee place nearby, earbuds in, sorting through the documents. I printed a few pages. I marked important items. I already knew what I needed. Trends, customer overlaps, the size of what he'd done. By night, I had a folder so thick it would make someone uneasy. And not only my dad Michael, some of his customers had names I knew. People who'd never want this uncovered. People who would destroy him if they thought he might bring them down, too. I didn't alert police. I didn't speak to an attorney. I got in touch with someone I hadn't messaged in 4 years, Emily. She's with the Internal Revenue Service and works in the field investigation section. We went out shortly in college, stayed civil after that. I told her I had something she'd care about. She didn't believe me right away until I said 3 names and an amount. Then her tone changed. She asked me to meet her the following day. That evening, I received a text from a number I didn't know. It was Ryan. Hey, they grabbed my phone Saturday. Just now got it returned. Where are you? I shared the name of my motel. He called instantly. He sounded steady but puzzled. He said Michael and Jessica told him I had backed out of dinner, that I decided not to attend. I didn't even reply. I just sent him an image of the message Michael had sent me. There was quiet on the phone for some time afterward, then only one phrase. I didn't realize, he said. I told him I trusted what he said. He asked why I was still around the area. I replied I was handling a family matter. I didn't explain exactly what. Not yet. The following morning felt like the first true moment of my entire existence. I dressed in a basic dark hoodie, picked up the folder I had prepared, and took the elevator to the ground floor on my way to the Internal Revenue Service's local office. My cell buzzed a few separate times with numbers I knew. I chose not to respond. I had an appointment at 9:30. I showed up by 9:10. Emily looked exactly identical. Neat, serious expression, the sort of woman who wouldn't flinch if a grenade landed near her. She quietly flipped through the beginning pages of the folder. Her finger rested on one figure, then another. She lifted her eyes to mine and gave a single nod. "Can I keep this with me?" she asked. I replied that I could give her duplicates. The actual version stayed in my possession. 2 hours afterward, she called. I was in the motel room, partly watching a food competition and thinking what might be going through Ryan's head. She didn't waste any time. We're launching an inquiry. I believed she meant going back to her workplace. I misunderstood. She meant we were going to Michael and Jessica's place. I was sitting in a black federal vehicle with shaded windows. 3 other individuals sat beside me, all quiet, wearing collared shirts and jackets, but with a serious don't-mess-with-me energy. Another vehicle came behind us. We didn't use flashing lights or loud alarms, but it still somehow felt noisy, like the entire neighborhood suddenly noticed. They knocked on the door. Michael answered it. He looked confused, then angry, then suddenly pale. Jessica was next, then Ryan. Emily and the other agents announced themselves, showed badges, and requested immediate access to files, ledgers, and computers. Michael kept trying to stop them. Jessica insisted it was a misunderstanding. Ryan looked like he didn't know what to do or say. The rest was silence. The agents were calm but firm. They secured every document they needed. Michael didn't say a word after the initial protests. Jessica cried a little. Afterwards, I was alone with Ryan in the driveway. "Are you okay?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Thanks," he said quietly. I smiled faintly. "Sometimes," I said, "the only way to fix things is to break them first."